as a holiday from the Führer. The morning's dedication ceremony was followed by a strenuous series of PE workouts on deck, gym sessions, fencing, table tennis, dancing lessons, piano recitals, swimming galas, and bridge parties, all of which were not so much obligatory as strongly recommended by the ship's holiday reps, who didn't leave you alone until you gave in. Just walking round the ship was a major expedition. There was the Führer suite on B deck, kept for VIPs, the walnut-panelled folk costume lounge, and the winter garden. The German hall, the music salon, the ballroom, and 7 different bars. There was an indoor swimming pool, bouncing with echoes from excited Bund Deutsche Mädel girls, bathed in dazzling refracted light. And then there were meals and more meals that you had to dress up for, and were served with napkins folded into swastika shapes, beneath banners sewn with the KDF slogan, "Enjoy your lives." The coffee tables had ashtrays with pictures of the ship on their plastic bases, and matchbooks with Wilhelm Gustloff printed in gold lettering alongside them. Someone had put the Hitler Jugend in charge of the ship radio, which meant that in between the dance music and regular broadcasts from Joseph Goebbels, random exhortations were bellowed over the tannoy, mostly concerning military excitements. The most recent one had come when the Wilhelm Gustloff passed a couple of German warships idling off the coast of France, and passengers were urged to think of the man who had given the German people their reputation and their position of power in the world, our Führer. The HJ boys had also instituted a daily quiz. Sample question: what is Adolf Hitler's favourite flower? To which the passengers roared the answers in unison. In her deck chair on the sun deck, a silk scarf round her head, Ada kept her eyes shut and sighed. Looking at the sea made her feel sick, what with the glare of the sun off its writhing currents and the smell of fish. The vast expanse of water only reminded her of how far from home she was, and the proximity of so many others made her feel nervous. Far better to lie back and pretend to be asleep, even if there was no chance of relaxing. Yesterday, to break the tedium, she'd taken a trip ashore, but even on dry land, the pace did not relent. It was an outing to Funchal to view the flora. The group wended their way past jacarandas, thrusting fiery purple blossom in their faces, giant ferns and dragon trees, yellow frangipani and tremulous orchids. Above them, the mountain slopes were tumbling with verdant growth, and in the market, old women in shawls attempted to sell them lace, wicker baskets, and painted gourds. One woman had a fruit Ada had never seen, pomegranate, it was called, a fruit like a cup full of jewels. But as she stretched out her hand, the tour guide leapt forward and advised her not to touch it on account of disease. The guides were exactly like schoolteachers. While everyone was marvelling at the banana trees and the birds of paradise and flamingo flowers, the tour guide kept pointing out the poverty of the local inhabitants, their ramshackle homes and gutters flowing with waste, saying it proved how other cultures were inferior to the Germans. It was lucky the locals didn't understand. The peasant women kept on smiling their toothless smiles while the group ignored them and hurried on. Bringing up the rear were a couple of SS surveillance staff, employed to prevent the women striking up holiday romances with foreign men. The guards were a burly pair who saw everything and wouldn't hesitate to rough up any locals who tried as much as a friendly greeting. Avoiding men had become a full-time occupation for Ada. She couldn't help having good legs, a nice dress, and a suntan. But the ship was full of lads who'd qualified for their tickets in groups from the factories where they worked, and were delighted to find any unattached woman, let alone a pretty 23-year-old with a voluptuous figure, a snub nose, full lips, and eyes of bright Aryan blue. Ada's creamy blonde plaits framed a face as delicate as a porcelain doll, and her red and yellow halter-neck sundress emphasized her generous curves. They hung around her like wasps, offering to buy her a beer and asking for a dance. Even when she picked up one of her stack of film magazines, they